Being that I've seen quite a few people ask about intermittent fasting recently, I figured this would be a great time to talk about it. So let's get started. Intermittent fasting is an interesting one for me. This is something I feel like it's gained a lot of popularity within the past couple of years. I know a lot of people that do it. I don't, but I know a lot of people that do. And I want to go over the logistics of it, more so than the pros and cons. We will get into some of the pros and cons of this, but it's really more of the logistics that I want to talk about, so you can kind of take that information and see if this is even something remotely relevant to what you should be doing. Right. Now, let's begin by talking about the different types of intermittent fasting. The first one that I'm going to talk about, I don't really consider this to be intermittent fasting. I just consider this to be fasting. That's when you don't eat for a day or two or three or a week. You pick a certain amount of time and you just don't eat for that period. Now, sometimes people do this for religious reasons, but the majority of the time, and what we're talking about today, is for health reasons, right? And predominantly, there's two things that I hear. One is that it'll be a reset for the body and a little bit of a cleanse. And I hate cleanses. I will say this again: I hate cleanses because the body is amazing, and the body will cleanse itself naturally as long as you don't keep polluting it. Now, that's what a cleanse does, right? People stop putting harmful things in their body, and then they, then they go, oh my God, I feel so much better. It's like, well, yeah, duh, no kidding. So if you're drinking lots of alcohol, if you're eating lots of fatty foods, if you're eating lots of highly processed foods with chemicals in them, yeah, your body's going to feel terrible. So do you need to do a cleanse? No, you need to stop doing the bad behavior. I know. Sounds so simple. But the reality is that's really what you should be doing. Lead a healthier lifestyle, and you won't need to do cleanses on your body all the time. So will fasting help your body out and be a little bit of a cleanse and a jumpstart? Absolutely. But it's more so because of the fact that you're not polluting your body with things it doesn't want, rather than the cleanse itself. Now, the other reason why you would do a fast, for health reasons, is to lose weight. Now, here's a dark metaphor. Nobody who starved to death ever did so without losing weight. I know, that's a dark one. But that's what that's kind of like the point here, though. If you're going to starve yourself, and if you're not eating for a day or two or three, that's what you're doing. You're not providing your body with any nutrition. You are starving yourself. So if you do that, sure, you can lose weight, right? We mentioned that the rule of thumb is 3,500 pound calorie deficit, either through diet or exercise, to lose a pound of weight. So if you were going to normally eat 2,000 calories in a day, and you don't eat for 2 days, that's 4,000 calories. Theoretically, you should lose 1 pound, or a little over a pound. That does not sound at all pleasurable to me, to not eat for 2 days for the potential of losing a pound of weight. Hey, maybe you might luck out and lose 2 pounds. Was it worth it? Maybe for you it is. Wouldn't be for me. Now, the other thing to think about is when we lose weight, a lot of times, people think, well, my body is just going to use the stores of fat that it has as energy if I'm not providing it with food. And yes, that is true, but it may also use muscle for that energy. So it's never targeted the way that we want it to. I would love if I could just not eat for 2 days and lose kind of some of the fat around here. That would be awesome, but that's not the way it works. So you may lose muscle mass in conjunction with losing some fat. So And just because you're losing fat doesn't mean you're going to lose the fat where you wanted to lose the fat. So that's a problem. So single day, multi-day fasts, I'm not a fan of them because I don't really see the huge benefit of them. Actually, they can do a little bit of harm to you. We'll talk about the harms at the end. So the other type of fasting, which is what we really think of as intermittent fasting, is when we only allow ourselves to eat during a certain amount of time during the day. All right? So we still eat every day, but we limit the amount of time. Now, the biggest one is known as like the 16-8. And so that means we don't eat for 16 hours, and then we allow ourselves to eat for 8 hours. And those are going to be 8 consecutive hours. It's not like you can do 2 hours here and 3 hours here. So that'd be 8 consecutive hours. So what's the logic behind this? Well, the logic is if you reduce the amount of time that you can eat, potentially you will eat less, and therefore you should lose a little bit of weight. Now, the merit on this is because you have a reduced amount of time to eat, your meals are going to be closer together, and therefore you may not be as hungry throughout the day, right? If we had, think of like our first meal at 7 a.m., second meal at 12:30, and last meal at like 6 p.m. There's essentially like 5 hours in between meals. So there's more of a chance that we might be a little bit more hungry. Now, if we tighten all that up, if we tighten up into like 8 hours, really we need to be eating, say we start eating at 9, we have to be done eating by 5, which means your last meal is going to be like 4 to give yourself time to actually eat. So in that case, it's going to be more of like 3.5 hours in between meals as opposed to 5.5. So there is some merit to that, right? However, if you still eat the same volume of food, the same amount of food, the same amount of calories, well, then you're not really, going to go into any sort of calorie deficit, so there's not going to be any weight loss there. Additionally, you might kind of freak out slightly when you realize that you only have a half an hour left that you can eat, and therefore you might binge eat a little bit. So there's the potential that you might actually go into a calorie surplus because you freak yourself out thinking that you only have a certain amount of time to eat. Now, either way, let's say you still eat the same amount of food, right? This could still benefit you depending on what time of day you eat or when you normally ate, right? If you're a type of person that would eat very close to bedtime, well, once you go to sleep, our bodies slow down. We don't process things as much, and we're not going to burn calories the same way while we're sleeping. So if you move everything up and you finish eating 3 or 4 hours before bedtime, most likely you will sit there and burn that energy a lot more efficiently than if you did it right before you went to bed. Now, this is something that I do all the time. I try to not eat past 8:30. I try to be asleep by 10:30. I try not to eat past 8:30. I normally have dinner at 7. I try not to have any alcohol after 7 p.m. Right? I might have something while I'm cooking or before I have my meal, but I don't drink past 7 o'clock, and I don't drink every day anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. But this is what my normal routine is. Obviously, if I go out to dinner or if I'm at a party, all bets are off. But this is my normal routine. I try to give my body time to process, digest all this stuff before I go to bed. So an intermittent fasting may help with that, right? You may end up having your last meals way before bedtime, and it gives you an opportunity of digesting and processing everything while you're still awake. So that could be a benefit for you. Now, let's look at the logistics of this, though. And I think this is where some people run into problems. If you only have 8 hours, When do you start? When do you finish? Okay. If you think about an 8-hour workday, do you make your your time where you're eating, you know, while you're at work? That would just be weird to have all your meals while you're at work and then not eat while you're at home. So you can move it and sit there and say, okay, well, I'll skip breakfast and then, you know, I might eat like around noon or 11 o'clock and then eat at like 7 o'clock. So 11 to 7 would be, you know, probably like mine. And that's kind of what I do sometimes anyway, just if I go to like the climbing gym in the morning. I might not get back till 11:30, and that's when I'll actually have my first meal of the day. So it works for me because I'm used to maybe, you know, only having 2 meals a day or sometimes only 1 meal a day. My body's gotten used to this. So that becomes something that you need to think about, though, because if you're not going to have breakfast and you're used to having breakfast, well, you might be fatigued in the morning. You might not be thinking as clearly. You might be cranky. You might really feel hunger pangs until you get used to that, and that's where hangry comes from, when you're hungry and angry. So these are things that you need to think about. If you're a morning person, if you really need to have that food in the morning, then that's when you're going to start. But then that also means you're going to be finished eating in the afternoon, and then in the evening, you're not going to eat at all. That might work for you. It might not work for you. If you have a family who's not doing intermittent fasting, it kind of becomes weird, particularly if you have you know, children, and if you're the person making the food, you still have to cook and provide food for other people, or sit around and watch them eat, which is super weird. Be like, no, it's okay. I'm going to have some water because I finished eating at 3. So think about that. Think about the logistics of it. Now, this is where we're at with this, right? You have to think about the logistics, when you're going to eat, how you're going to get through it. Can you be disciplined enough to maybe reduce the amount of food that you are eating during that time? Because if you eat the same amount or more food, then the potential for weight loss goes down significantly. These are problems that you need to think about. Also, I will say this. If you have any sort of medical conditions that prohibit you from doing this diet, then really don't do this type of diet. If you have diabetes, if you have something where you really need to be monitoring your glucose levels, your blood sugar levels, intermittent fasting is not for you, because if your blood sugar crashes, you can't sit there and say, well, I can't eat for another 4 hours. Like, you have to do something about it. This is your health. You need to take it seriously. So that's why also, like I always say, if you're going to do something like this and you think that you're going to do it like long term, even if you're going to do it short term, talk to your doctor, talk to a nutritionist, talk to a dietitian. Do it the right way, because you need to figure out how you're going to do this and give your body all the nutrients it needs. How are you going to achieve the result that you're trying to achieve? And like I said, most of the time on a fast, it's as a cleanse and to lose some weight. And as intermittent fasting, it's predominantly just to lose weight. And if you can reduce the amount of food in an 8-hour span, you should be able to reduce the amount of food in an 11-hour span and not put these kinds of restrictions on yourself. That's my opinion. What do I know? That might work for you as well. That might actually be a better solution for you. It might be a better solution is like keeping like an 11-hour window, but eating smaller meals throughout the day. There's lots of different ways of doing this. I think by and large, just doing it in the most healthy manner possible is the strongest way to go with it. So think about all like these things before you jump in on it. Don't listen to what other people said worked for them and didn't work for them. Take that information and, you know, put it in your back pocket, but don't expect it to be exactly the same for you, because like I said, we're all different people, different ages, different heights, different weights, different calorie requirements. So one diet does not fit all. Otherwise, there would only be one diet. and there's not. There's hundreds. So that's what I want to talk about today. I hope you found this useful. If you like this video, then click the like button. Share it with your friends and family. If you want to hear more of what I got to say, then subscribe, turn on notifications, and find out when new videos are coming out. And leave me some comments down below. What do you think? Have you done intermittent fasting? Do you enjoy it? Do you hate it? Do you think it's stupid? Has it worked for you? Has it not worked for you? I'd love to hear from you. So until we speak again, be well, be safe, and be kind to everybody.